on this episode of the Naturist Living Show, the Naked Comedy Show.
This episode of the Naturist Living Show is brought to you by Bear Oaks Family Naturist Park. At Bear Oaks, we offer traditional naturist values in a modern setting. Free your body, free your mind. www.bearoaks.ca.
Welcome, dear listener, to episode 158 of the Naturist Living Show. My name is Stéphane Deschaines, and I'm your host for this podcast and the owner of Bear Oaks Family Naturist Park. Let's find out about our supporters this month from Samantha. Samantha, can you tell us a joke?
Well, Stéphane, you certainly set me up for that. I guess how many editors does it take to change a light bulb? Just one. We're pretty used to making changes. But seriously, thank you to each and every one of you for your generous contribution on Patreon. Your belief in our work propels us forward and continues to empower us to keep striving for more quality content. This episode is brought to you especially by Heather C., Eric W., Shelley C., Paul K., and Mario G. Thank you so very much for your support month after month. I truly appreciate it. And of course, thank you to all of our incredible listeners. We appreciate you lending us your ears and time again and again. Your dedication truly fuels our passion for creating meaningful content, and we are so extremely grateful for your ongoing support.
All right. Thank you, Samantha. And thank you to all the supporters on Patreon and all the supporters who just support us by listening. So thank you for being there. And the first time we talked about stand-up comedy, nude, clothes-free stand-up comedy, was in 2013, which was the first time that we had stand-up comedy here at Bear Oaks. And I will put the links in the show notes if you want to listen to it again. But that's 10 years ago now. If you're listening into the future and you're catching up on an episode, it is 2023. So 10 years that we've been doing this. And it's been fantastic. We were approached, to make a long story short, and it's all on the website. There's a whole page dedicated the Nude Stand-Up or Naked Comedy Stand-Up Hall of Fame, where we show all of the performances and all the performers since the beginning. And I'll, again, put a link in the show notes for that. And so the story is told there when in 2013, or probably just before, maybe it was 2012, I don't know, Lianne Mauladin, who had a group called the Mary Janes of Comedy, contacted us, and they wanted to know if we would like to have stand-up here at the park. And I said, sure, as long as you all don't mind not having clothes while you perform. And she said, oh, I thought it was going to be okay for us to be clothed as long as we don't mind you being nude. I said, no, that's weird. We performers here, it's all about equality, blah, blah, blah. You guys have heard the story, ethical naturism and all that. We want everybody to be equal. And so the performers have to be clothes-free as well. And she said, well, I don't know if the women will do this because it's an all-women troupe that she organizes. But she found some. There was one man.
That she signed up for was elitesingles.com, which is one that you pay for. So she thought, like, oh, they might be better. No. Save your money. Don't fall for that. They're not better at all. And really, she should have known when she read the tagline for Elite.
They had such a good time. They told two friends who told two friends and so on. And pretty soon she said, oh, we got to do more than one a year because we got so many comics who are interested in doing this. And for the vast majority, they've actually been women as well. So you think that might be more difficult? I'm not sure. It's a question to have a discussion. So we've had a few conversations about comedians that do nude comedy, including Tim Chismar, who you've heard also do interviews very recently on this podcast. So this came up, and I was contacted by Billy Procidea, who does a naked comedy show in New York City. And he's not a naturist, as you'll hear. He's not a nudist. He doesn't call himself that. I would say he's probably a recreational naturist or nudist, depending on your definition, of course. But there is definitely a sexual aspect to where he's doing it, but it's a sex positive place, and that in itself is not wrong because fundamentally he is doing comedy where the nudity is not sexual. It's not about some sort of sex thing, and it's not supposed to be for the audience as well, and that's very much his thing. So you can hear all about it as we discuss that. But a word of warning, there is some language and, of course, some sexual references. So if you have small children listening to the podcast, or if you're easily bothered, you can either turn it off, or if you have small children, you let them listen. You may have to explain a few things, as we usually say when the stand-up comedies are here at Bear Oaks. So let's listen to our chat with Billy.
Hey there, I'm Billy Procidea, host of the Man Whore podcast and the producer of New York City's Naked Comedy Show.
And did you invent a naked comedy show?
I didn't invent it, but I am currently the one holding that torch, carrying that mantle. There's been a naked comedy show in New York City for as long as I've been doing comedy and more. I think like maybe almost 20 years ago, this guy, Andy O'Feish, up in Boston, he started a naked comedy show up there. And when he also then started doing it in New York City as well. So when I was doing stand up as a youngling, when I was in college, I heard about people doing this naked comedy thing, and I'd already started doing some Craigslist stuff. So I'd start being naked in front of at least a couple or a small group of people before. You know, it's like as soon as you've been naked at a bukkake, you start becoming comfortable being naked on stage too. You know what I mean? And so I thought like, oh, I could do that because, you know, when you start doing stand up, it's hard to get stage time. It's hard to get someone to book you. Mm-hmm. So usually you have to start off by like promising to bring 10 friends who spend a lot of money, or maybe you have to bark out on the street and like talk to a ton of tourists who lie to you because you say, hey, do you like to laugh? And they'll say no. And I'm like, I don't believe you. Everybody likes to laugh, even if you don't want to come to our bad comedy show in this sketchy back room of a bar. So back then it was like, oh, if I'm willing to take my pants off, I'll get stage time. And so I started doing Andy's show back in college. And then at some point he had to stop doing it in New York City because of the commute. But then like this other chick, Abigail, was running the naked show. And then like Caitlin and Allison were running a naked comedy show. And like now Billy's running the naked comedy show here in New York City.
So is it the kind of thing where the other people got tired of it, or there was a power takeover and you managed to knock them out?
No. I would never want to knock out. There's no need for competing naked comedy. You know, there's only so many comics in this city willing to do it. You know what I mean? There was no power struggle with me in the past comedians who have run shows. They've never really overlapped. It's kind of more like, oh, no one's running one. Why isn't anyone running one? I'll run one. Yeah, I'm sure Caitlin and Allison probably had that idea, you know, the same thought process. And I'm doing my thing. However, there was some controversy this year. There was a dude, not a comedian, just some guy, he did a naked comedy show back in April where he did 2 of them in a weekend. And I had been running mine for a minute. Hacienda and I started ours back in September of 2022. And I did one in January and did a couple in March. And there's this guy, he came to every comedy show. He bought a ticket to every show. When we started doing 2 shows in a night, he bought a ticket to both shows. And then in April, he ran one the weekend before our April show, right? I started getting messages being like, oh, wow, like hey, you should book this chick. And this chick posts that she's doing a naked show. The thing is that like, it's not my naked show. So I look into it. It looks like it's a fundraiser. I'm kind of like, all right, it's a one-off. It's for charity. No need to make a stink, but also like kind of weird. You picked the weekend right before the one we announced, and that you've come to the shows, Neil, right? Because when I found out who was running it, I was like, that name looks familiar. I'm like, oh yeah, because it's on every single check-in sheet. But whatever, I leave it be. Good for him. More naked comedy. Good for everybody, I guess. But then the next month, we were covered in the New York Times. And days after the New York Times article, this guy, Neil, again, just some guy, not a comic. Just some guy announces, hey, we're going to start doing a monthly show. And the next weekend is the weekend before our June date.
Wow.
And by the way, came to both April shows. He came to both shows in May. And I'm like, what the fuck, bro? Right? It's very, also never said anything to me. Never said, hey, great idea. Like, am I stepping on toes? He also would book, like, everyone he's trying to book were like people he saw on our naked comedy show. It was very strange. And then it got stranger. Then it was like, I found out that at the April show, he taped the comedians. He filmed them without their permission.
Not cool.
Which I think is not cool. And I think also a possible state law violation. New York City has good revenge porn laws. Didn't release them, but like he had them and he didn't tell anybody. So then when he was booking people in June, because again, like the New York Times article came out, all the comics know that I run this naked comedy show. So I'm getting all these random messages being like, hey, I got a message from some guy. Is this you? Is this your show? Are y'all affiliate? Like what? And I'm like, look, I don't know him. He just comes to all our shows. Weird dude. In his booking message, he was asking, hey, we want to be able, with your permission, to film you for our archives. What are, yeah, I've got a not porn folder on my computer too.
Sure.
You know,
Yes,
it's
yeah.
What archives? What for? I think enough comics said no, and I sent them what I thought was a fairly politely worded email being like, hey man, what's up? Comics are feeling weird about this. Why are you taping people? He didn't end up doing any of the shows. I think he backed off and he stopped coming to our show. So I did, that whole story is to say I lost a fan.
And is it like in Russia, he accidentally fell out of a window?
I'm very Italian enough to say there's nothing I have to say about that. No, I think what happened is that, like, I think enough people could tell the difference between the two types of shows we were running. He also, again, part of it is he's not a comic. So he doesn't really like know how to run a comedy show, from what I heard about the April stuff. But I think what it's a testament to is a lot of people told him no because they don't know him. Mm-hmm. He's not a comic. Also, he would be like, it's for our nonprofit. And we want to film you for the archives for the nonprofit, which again, sketchy. And then also, you know, he just rented out some black box theater in Midtown. We run our comedy show at the Hacienda, which is a sex positive, intentional community space. I think that gives a lot of people a lot of comfort for doing our show. And that's a lot because of like the philosophy of the space, the fact that I'm a community member of the space, because like a core center of the crowd that comes out every month is from this just sex positive, body positive community. And I think that just makes people more relaxed to take their bits and stuff out while they tell jokes about mom.
So is it that easy for you? Like you go, hey, it's Billy. Do you want to come and perform naked? And they go, yeah, for sure.
Oh, I definitely don't get that kind of that. I mean, sometimes it's that enthusiastic, but I get a lot. I got like well over 100 comedians have very politely said no, thank you.
Oh wow! Yeah. And how many comedians have you had who said yes?
I mean, I could probably give you like a hard or flaccid number, but that's 20, and that's, I would say like over 50 comics have done the show or are about to do the show.
That's pretty cool.
So yeah, we've got comics who've started becoming like really excited about it. They want to keep doing it. I've got some comics who've done it 3-4 times by now, and they're just like, I don't know, it's very fun, and it's a unique thing. You don't get to just be naked in public very often.
Yeah.
In very many spaces here. And then to do the show itself, one comic, she was actually, she didn't do the old naked shows, right? Someone had asked her and she didn't want to do them then. And I asked her to do it for the New York, when we had this one show where the New York Times guy was going to come. And I'm like, it's got to be like the best lineup I've booked. I hit up this chick, Carolyn Bergier, very funny comedian. She has a podcast called Diking Out that's very popular. And I say, hey, would you be down to do this show? I heard you've been a maybe in the past. The New York Times will be there. And like the press being there was like the turning point. She's like, well, if the New York Times is going to be there, I can take my tits out for that. And she does it and had such a good time. She's been back. She wants to do it more. And she tells me like, I want to see what jokes work naked and what jokes don't work naked, and just almost analyze those sets to see how the same set does in the different environments, almost as if it's testing the jokes themselves to say like, how good are these jokes? Or are there jokes I can't do clothed, right? And it's an interesting challenge as a comedian. I mean, that's this guy, Andy O'Feiss, he started the Naked Show all those years ago. And he said that the why was, he's like, how do we make a veteran, seasoned, talented comedian nervous like it's their first time?
Right.
Have them do it naked.
We've been doing stand-up comedy for 10 years now at Bear Oaks. And I remember once there was a comedian, and then she started telling this joke about shaving her pubic hair, and then she realized, oh, never mind, you already know the answer because you can see me.
Yeah.
So that's not going to work.
Yeah. Rachel Green, who's done it several times, she has a joke that has an act out where she gesticulates towards her crotch. And I remember when she first did it, she kind of stopped in the middle, goes like, I just realized I've never done this act out while you can actually see my pussy. Like it hits different, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
Just like I can't do a lot of jokes about dieting and my body because they'll start to feel bad because they can see the body, which to me just says you're confirming what I'm joking about with my body, that you feel bad laughing at it while it's on stage. But yeah, there are definitely jokes that like hit different when your body's on display than when not. And there, you know, so
it's you said it's a sex positive place, but your show is not necessarily. I mean, there's obviously jokes about sex. I don't know if it's it's possible to have a stand-up comedy without sex jokes or something. But is it a sexual thing because you're in a sex positive place?
No. I mean, look, I can't control other people. I'm sure there are some folks sitting in the audience who have a thing, or it's clothing optional for the audience. So I'm sure there's at least a couple exhibitionists who secretly, and as long as it says secret, it doesn't matter, right? But maybe secretly they're a little jolted and excited that like, oh my God, my cock is out in front of people right now. There's so-and-so sitting there. And again, so long as no one else knows that you're horny, I don't see a problem with it, right?
Right, sure.
You know, so you can have a foot fetish and work at a shoe store, so long as no one knows you have a foot fetish and no one can tell. So long as you don't have like this raging boner and you're wearing tight pants on purpose, so long as you're not like lingering on her ankle, no harm, no foul if it's all inside the head. But if you are watching me do a joke about suicide and you're aroused, that's on you.
Yeah.
That has nothing to do with me. I was just talking about my friend who jumped in front of the subway. Like if that makes you horny, that's between you and your therapist and your journal.
Yeah, fair enough. So you said it's clothing optional, so you can take your clothes off?
For the audience, we allow the first 2 rows are like nudity optional.
Just the first 2 rows. How come?
Because I don't need to. I can see you in the front 2 rows. I keep my fucking eyes on you. I don't need some dude to be in the back corner trying to sneak a wank in. You know what I mean? You know, maybe when the demand is like the first 2 rows are completely full, you know, maybe I'll extend to the 3rd row. But for now, it's like the first 2 rows feel safe. We can see you. You're not in a dark space where anything untoward might happen.
And the audience who's nude, is it mostly men or is it a mix?
It's definitely a mix. I mean, I would say it's mostly men, but we definitely get a mix. And we get some like women and AFAB folk who might come and like be topless, but not the full way. Some people just wear underwear. You know, some people, they really don't get undressed as much as they just wear like kink outfits. Maybe they show up in like a leather harness or something like that. One guy showed up on a date with a dog mask on because he's in the puppy play. And I'm like, you do you, boo boo.
Safe space.
But like, yeah, safe space, but you're begging me to say something.
Well, of course you are. Yes. Yeah, of course you are. So for 10 years, I said we've been doing stand-up comedy at Bear Oaks because we had a person contact us to see if we could be interested in comedians. And I said, sure, as long as they're nude. And it was like, oh, we didn't realize we had to be nude. But since then they are. But as it turns out, she runs a women's comedy troupe. So we've only had women here.
Oh,
Well, a couple of men, but mostly women, which is, I didn't think anything of it because she's the organizer and that's her troupe, right?
Mm.
But I've learned that there's not a lot of women comics. Is that true for you as well?
In general, or like in naked comedy?
In general, yeah.
Oh, not at all. There more and more women are starting to do comedy, and I mean, I think there's always been a lot of women doing comedy. I don't think there were a lot of people paying attention to women doing comedy. I think there are a lot of people who are
Okay.
dismissing, and it still happens where they dismiss comics because it's a chick. I mean, if you listen to female comics talk on podcasts, they'll tell you about this all the time. You know, discrimination they get, different pay. Sometimes, you know, this is, I don't want to generalize, but okay, I'll just say there are some shows they'll talk about how like a club, and it won't even be discreet. Sometimes they'll say we've already got a woman on the show, like
Oh,
as if they're covered, right?
right.
And yeah, so there's definitely issues with that in comedy, but there's no shortage of female comics, and then there's no shortage of like good female comics. I have a literal spreadsheet for the Naked Comedy Show, just to keep track of like who's done the show. Who This is the type of show where I don't want to ask someone who said no a second time by accident. It feels a little, you know, could come off the wrong way. So I keep track of who said yes, who said no, who's a maybe, who never responded. And then people I want to ask again. I have a ton of women on this spreadsheet, not to sound like, you know, Romney and be like, I got spreadsheets full of women, but yeah, I got like a lot of, I'll even expand it further where I just have so many different types of comedians stylistically. And I have so many different types of people, whether that's a gender, body type, race, religion. Like I got so many different types of people in this list of people I think are really funny and who are bookable. So the fact that I like to think diverse lineups on a naked comedy show, and these are good comics, there's no excuse for really any show to have a problem with that. Yeah, I don't think anyone should judge any recurring comedy show based on like any one lineup, but like if you looked at all their lineups, what does it look like? You know, and you know, I usually always have 2 or 3 female comics on the Naked Comedy Show. I mean, you know, sometimes it's 1, sometimes it's 4, right? But there's no shortage of good female comics. If you watch 10 female comics and you didn't think any of them were funny and they're all pros, I don't know. Maybe that says something more about you, because that's not a style. Lady comedy isn't a style. Maybe you just like, that's something you got to evaluate. But
Is it harder to convince men or women to do the show?
I think men have. Well, one, I don't try to convince anyone. It feels like that might be a little off for me to do, so I try not to, unless someone's a maybe, and then I'm just making my best sell. But
okay, so let me ask the question differently. Are you more likely to have a man or a woman be kind of like, I don't know?
I think the men are the most, I don't know. Like the women tend to be like yes or no about it. Mm-hmm. The men are the ones who go, and then ultimately say no, right? Like those, I feel like it's so strange. There are dudes who are like ripped, or dudes who I just through the rumor mill I know have big dicks, and yet they're the ones who I'm just sometimes surprised who says yes and who says no. There's some comics where I'm like, if I had, and they go like, I don't know about my body, and I go, if I had your body, I would do everything naked, professionally. Jesus. And some dudes, I think a lot of the cis men get a little nervous about the presentation of the penis. I think there's a lot of nervousness about, oh no, like, is it going to look small? It's like, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't. That's not what anybody's there for, presumably. So,
yeah. I mean, if you have someone who's a big fan of you specifically, like maybe they're there to see, but yeah. At the end of the day, they want to know, do you got jokes? A dude with a 6-pack and a big old dick, does it, if his jokes are not good, then he's not good. Like, they kind of forget you're naked after the first 30 to 90 seconds.
And how often do you do this? Is it once a month?
In New York City, we do it once a month. We do 2 shows in a night. So we do an 8 and 10 o'clock show once a month.
All year round? So
far, we've been every month since March. We did We had one show in September. We did one show in January, and both of those sold out like 10 days in advance. So we were like, fuck it, let's do 2 shows in a night, right? Because even if we sell like another 20 tickets and total, then it's like worth it. But then in March, when we did that, we sold out both shows for the night. We've actually sold out 10 out of our 12 shows. The 2 April shows are the only ones that didn't technically sell out.
Is it weirder in January to come into a club from outside with 12 layers of clothing and take it all off?
Not for me. I mean, it does require we put out a couple coat racks, but it's otherwise pretty much the same. We got keep an eye on the temperature in there. The dudes who do agree to do the show, they are still a little concerned of like, hey, can you turn the AC maybe up a bit? Just a little less shrinkage would be nice. Although fucking our July show, we had a 7 o'clock. It's a half hour before doors open. The AC bus can't get the AC to go on. It's 90 degrees outside. It's 80 degrees down there. There's nothing we can do. Can't really cancel the show so we're just like, we got to do a show. And a lot of people with penises are concerned about shrinkage with the air conditioner. There's no air conditioner. It's 80 degrees. I got to tell you, it didn't hang any more than usual. I didn't get the reverse effect.
Did you
very disappointed?
Did you ease up on the rule? Only the first 2 rows could take their clothes off at that temperature?
No, but again, it's because like when I see the first 2 rows aren't mostly naked, then I go like the demand isn't there. So I'd have to see like most of the 2 rows naked before I start saying, hey, who's upset they couldn't get in the front row?
Right.
Then maybe I'll start extending it then.
And where is it there's folks from around the world listening. Where is it in relation to New York? It's not in Manhattan.
Sure. It's in the borough of Brooklyn, and then it's in a neighborhood called Bushwick. If you ever saw the TV show Girls, there's a lot of Bushwick and Girls, or High Maintenance also. But yeah, anyways, it's in Bushwick, which is in Brooklyn. And I have to say that because Brooklyn's massive. But yeah.
And easy to get to?
Yeah, it's right off the JM train. It's maybe like a half hour from like Times Square, or shorter if you take an Uber. It's 2 blocks from a subway.
And how much is it to go to watch the show?
Yeah, it's a $45 ticket, or we have an option to see both shows for the night, discounted, and it's $80.
Okay, and you have to buy your tickets ahead of time, or do you think you can get in at the door?
Well, it's not available at the door because the address isn't publicly listed. We don't want people to kind of like hang around. It's, but the venue has its reasons for that. But I do recommend people usually buy in advance because by the day of, usually we're sold out for both shows. Like last month, I think by Wednesday night, we were sold out for the 8 o'clock, and Thursday morning we were sold out for Friday's 10 o'clock show. So you can always do your best day of, but I mean, I do think it's best to buy in advance because it's a very popular show.
And so that sounds very successful, which is awesome. So you're rolling in money, and this is your only job, right?
I mean, I wouldn't say I'm rolling in money, but it's a very nice part of my aggregated income as a full-time creative person. I do my podcast, the Man Whore Podcast, full-time, as well as stand-up comedy. So between the podcast, stand-up, I also do some writing for Mashable.com about sex and dating. We cobble together an income.
Okay. Well, you can afford to live in New York. Must be all right.
I'm a very low budget kind of guy. I'm not a really great consumer of stuff. I don't buy a lot of things. I dress simply. I don't have fine tastes, so I can afford this. But I know a lot of people who would maybe be frustrated on my income.
And how did you get into comedy?
When I've always been a stand-up comedy fan since like middle school. I discovered Chris Rock. I discovered him when I was 11. I made Chris Rock a very big thing.
That is awesome.
When I came across Chris Rock, I found bigger and I saw that's what it was. I saw Dogma, I think it was 1999's Dogma. Chris Rock is in it, and George Carlin. I then find through the Napster wormhole, like I got my hands on like a Chris Rock CD, Bigger and Blacker. Loved it. Found George Carlin stuff. Lost my mind. Those became my like top 2 favorite comedians all time. And I just started devouring stand-up comedy. I would search first, you search Chris and George, you find HBO special. I start searching HBO special. I find these other guys. I start searching Comedy Central specials. I find other comedians. And so I became a really big fan of stand-up comedy that, like, by the time I graduated high school, I was thinking one day I would love to open a comedy club. Not me do comedy, but like it would be cool to open a comedy club and then I get to watch comedy. Kind of like an alcoholic with a bar. Be like, if we just open up our own bar, we could just drink all the time, man. So when I got to NYU, I had roommates and people I would meet. They just started being like, oh, I would tell them that was my dream. And they thought, oh, you want to be a comedian? I'm like, no, I'm not funny. They said, no, you're funny. You should try stand-up. So by sophomore year, I did the talent show at my dorm. I wrote 5 minutes of material. I did it all in 3, but I loved it. It was very fun. My first joke killed. And then I thought, I want to do that. And then I just kept going to open mics. I was at NYU, so I was in New York City. So there was a ton of open mic opportunities available. Did some bringer shows, stumbled upon the Naked Comedy Show. And by the time I graduated, I was just like regularly getting up around town, again, doing mics and doing weird bar shows and shit gigs outside of the city. But I was doing it.
Did you have any experience with nudity? Like, do you have a background with, would you call yourself a nudist or a naturist?
No. My background with nudity and being nude in front of other people was, all sexual. Craigslist had a very healthy scene in New York City when I was at NYU. So I did a lot of Craiglisty stuff, just trying stuff out, just experimenting. So, I might go watch this couple fuck, right? And then I'm going to do this. By senior year, I got invited to my first bukkake. And that was like, I started being in group sex scenarios where there are like other dicks around. And to me, I just always thought, well, if I'm willing to, if I'm okay with other dicks around, I can apply to more ads and therefore increase the probability of getting my dick sucked. I call it sex math. So I started being in those environments, and then I was doing the Naked Comedy Show. I just kind of became comfortable. I went to my first proper sex party in 2014. By then I had already started doing the podcast, and it just kind of worked. Like, you go to the first thing, you get naked, it works out. Okay, I go to the next thing, I get naked in front of people, it works out. And then you just kind of have this positive feedback loop where everyone seems fine with it.
But the stand-up comedy then is really your first non-sexual nudity experience, right?
Yeah, my junior year of college when I did the Naked Comedy Show, that was my first time being around other naked people, and it was like chill.
And so what do you think is the difference? How do you feel not being a nudist or a naturist? Since you've had the experience, does that not interest you to find out more? Go to nude beaches and things like that?
I mean, I go to nude beach. I guess it depends what you call a nudist or naturist. Like, I'm not, just like with swinging, like I'm not like in a lifestyle, but like I go to Gunnison. I just had my Man HorCon fan meetup weekend. It's this like quasi-annual thing I do where listeners of my show come from around the country. We had some dude flew in from Canada, and wow. We, they buy a weekend pass and I curate a weekend of stuff. So on the Saturday we went to Gunnison. A few people drove to Man HorCon, so they just carpooled and we went down, spent bunch of hours there and had a good time. These are also people who are, again, they're sex positive, and I had announced that this was on the schedule, so they were like excited to do it. A lot of them had comfort with nudity, but sometimes we have people who show up who aren't. But yeah, I go to Gunnison. I go to Gunnison Beach. I enjoy it. I go to Gunnison more than I go to like the normal beaches here in New York. But like I don't usually go to like naked board game night.
Okay. Because you don't like board games.
No, I love board games. And I would go, I guess, but it's not, there's just people who like, there's a little bit part of the identity. Like you do this podcast. It's a bit of your identity. I think you're naked right now. So I can't tell, but like.
I am. Yeah. Well, I'm at work. I got to be naked.
Right. So I don't even call myself a nudist, but like I'm comfortable with social nudity. Also more comfortable even with sexual nudity, but it is what it is. I've done New York Body Painting Day. Maybe I'm a closet nudist. Who knows?
Well, not even a closet. You're going to a beach in front of, and you're doing stand up. So hardly closet. Well, so that's interesting. As a person who's comfortable with non-sexual social nudity, but you're not a nudist. What's the difference?
You tell me. You're the naked professional.
Well, for me, I always talk about how there's a whole range, right? There's people, I talk about recreational nudists and ethical nudists, and it's kind of a scale where people who just do it occasionally for fun and don't particularly have a philosophy behind it, that's the recreational side. So you do it for fun, you do it because it's convenient or comfortable, but it's not a life calling, shall we say, which is the other end of the scale where you think that's the way we should be all the time, and why don't people get it, kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
So would you say you're that end? You're the recreational side? Where am I describing you when I say that?
Like I said, I think it's just like something fun to do sometimes, but it's not a thing where I go, like, I don't go to most things and think, I wish I was naked right now. But there are some things that are fun to go to that are also naked.
Are you okay wearing a bathing suit? You're comfortable in a bathing suit? Swimming in a bathing suit? Or would you prefer to be nude?
It depends on the context. At like a country club, I'd prefer to be wearing my bathing suit.
Well, everybody else is, so for sure.
Let me put it this way. Like, I'm not trying to sit here and like tell my family, like, hey, let's all go to a naked thing together. And I feel like the naturist crowd is more comfortable with that. But I think that's also part of like how sometimes someone's raised or what their circle's like. So like maybe if I was raised differently, maybe I would think differently. But
have you invited your family to naked stand-up?
No.
Too weird?
I already know the answer.
They don't want to see you?
It's hard enough to get them to come to a normal comedy show.
Yeah, but maybe they want to see you naked.
I don't know about that. There's it's funny because a lot of people will go, when I'm emceeing, I'll say, so, what brought you out to the show? They were like, we just wanted to see some comedy. I'm like, no, you fucking didn't. Stop it. You had to search a specific word to get this to show up. If you search just comedy show New York City, the Comedy Cellar shows up, not this one, right?
Right.
And then it's like, some people think, well, why even do this? Like, why are you doing? Is it a gimmick? I'm like, I mean, it's a ticket gimmick because I couldn't get you to go to my $5 comedy show with my pants on, but you paid 9 times as much to come to this one. So you tell me why.
So why? Who comes to those shows in your mind, in your opinion?
Well, we get a definitely a mix of people. So at the core, I think is the Hacienda community, because when we first started doing this,
what's the Hacienda?
Well, Hacienda is the venue where we do the show. It's that's
yeah. Sorry, I forgot that. Yeah.
It's okay. So the community space is called Hacienda, and they also throw play parties and workshops and mixers. So they already have a sex positive, kinky crowd that would be open to this. This is part of why I teamed up with them to do this show in the first place. So that's definitely at the core. But then there's some of my crowd, listeners of the Man or podcast. There's some nudists, because I'll advertise in some of the kind of the nudists Reddit, Facebook group stuff. Mm-hmm. And then there's a lot of just people who find it through finding it. Some of them listen to they read the New York Times and they found out about the show through that. Sometimes people, they're fans of other comedians who are on the shows and they're like, wow, I could go see so-and-so now. So we definitely get a mix of that. But I think at the core, and part of why the shows are so fun and part of why the shows are so safe for the comics is because it's like at the core, it's like that Hacienda crowd. I don't think you're going to get someone who just screams fat ass or something like that from the audience at our shows. I can't speak to others, but I think because of like how we run the show, where we run the show, I think that's a core part of it.
Do you get hecklers?
Yeah, but but so do all comedy shows.
Right.
I have noticed a new type of heckler where I blame TikTok for this. It's the person who can't handle some silence on stage. It's part of this jump cut society we're starting to enter, I think. So some of them, I know me and other comics, but I have a lot of jokes that have a pregnant pause. It's part of the structure of the joke. Mm-hmm. I am putting a space of silence here right before I say the funniest part of the joke. Mm-hmm. I'm going to say the punchline next. Don't fucking interrupt me. And And what happens is, I think because like TikTok's either just they constantly swipe, or people are editing their TikTok clips. They're editing out the pauses. Some of them are even editing the laughs out. But then what happens is people who are used to watching comedy on their phone now go in person and they go like, oh, there's a pause here. I better say something. Or they're waiting for me to say something. And it's like, no. And then they say something, we have to interact. And now I can't even finish the fucking joke. You know, you're never helping. You are never, ever. I just thought I could help. Nope. Don't need your help. And you know, even if I'm bombing, the show doesn't let it bomb. Let it be. No one needs you to speak. There was one dude who's like, he was there alone. He was naked and he was loud. And for some reason, he thought he was the fucking star of the show. It's like, dude, you paid a ticket to be here. You sit your ass down, shut up, and you laugh or you don't laugh. But oh my gosh, he was just like, I gave him a little bit of attention to feed it. And it turned out he's like, you know, on the side, he does a little acting. Oh. And so I'm like, there's no industry here. This isn't an audition. Like, not your turn to talk. So we get hecklers. Some of them I think don't know how to be at a comedy show. And then others, are just being assholes. But what are you going to do? You just put them down and you hope they don't come to the next show.
Well, I mean, some comedians almost are asking for it, right? They go like, you know, anybody here from Jersey or...
Well, that's different. I mean, there's there's different types of crowd interaction you can do. One is they point at you and they ask you a question. You are, as a comic, you open yourself up to stuff if you're asking. As an MC, you have to do it a lot because like that's kind of the job to host is, you know, getting the audience warmed up. And sometimes that just means you're going to talk to some people and also like help the comics learn about, you know, about the crowd. Then there's stuff where you just ask a rhetorical question to the audience. You go, and sometimes you're not even going to do anything with it. Sometimes you're like, hey, who's from Jersey? I am. What county? Boom. Maybe you have a line about that. And then you go into a joke you already have written about Jersey. That's why they asked it. They go, anybody this? Because they want to talk about it, but they want to like make it seem like, oh, let me just quick. So that's not even a time to heckle. That's a time to just like play along with what's going on. Mm-hmm. And then there's the heckle where they just blurt shit or sometimes they ask like a rhetorical question. You know, hey, I was on Netflix the other day. Y'all heard of this Netflix thing? We don't need you to answer. It's the way we talk. But I really wish the fucking audience would shut the fuck up sometimes.
Have you ever had to kick anybody out? Maybe not for being obnoxious that way, but because they're pervs or whatever?
Thankfully not. You know, I know I'm knocking on linoleum. I don't trust my landlord to be using real wood if I stamp on it. But yeah, so far, well-behaved crowds. Haven't had an issue like that. Sometimes I've had to talk to someone about talking in the audience, but that's normal comedy club shit. Like we haven't had too many issues with people being pervy. I mean, we've had a few people who they'll send DMs to comedians. That's uncomfortable. But then I just say like, okay, you're not welcome back at the show.
Mm-hmm. So is it a better or a worse crowd or the same as a normal show?
The same, but different, right? They're good or bad for the same and different reasons. The 10 o'clock show is usually a little rowdier because they've probably already been drinking. Mm-hmm. So the show is BYOB. There's no bar at the show. We don't sell drinks there. So, you know, people bring their own drinks, but the 10 o'clock show, they brought drinks, but they probably already had a couple drinks. So a little rowdier, but you know what? At New York Comedy Club, the 10 o'clock show, also a little rowdier too. Right. So it's a different show, but it's also still kind of the same.
Is it worse to bomb clothed or naked?
Naked. Bombing naked is the worst thing that's happened to me in my life after my grandma dying and my big breakup.
Oh.
Yeah.
And why did you bomb? Why does a comedian bomb? Why does it work some nights and not others?
I don't know, but I was 20 years old and not that good at comedy, so I'm sure that had a role to play in it.
Okay. Fair enough. So it hasn't happened since.
I've had bad sets naked, but again, because I bomb naked, it's fine. I bombed naked in front of the woman who took my virginity like 2 years prior.
Ooh, wow.
So it's like nothing's worse than that. And she didn't know I was going to be naked. With that part, I don't understand. I said it was called the Naked Comedy Show, and then I went up first. So the host came out. He's naked. He did his thing. He goes back. He brings me up. I'm naked. I do my thing poorly. I go backstage. I had a text message from Jean, and she said, I didn't know you're going to actually be naked. I said, it was a naked comedy show. It's called the Naked Comedy Show. The host was naked. She's like, I thought it meant like raw and uncensored.
Well, yeah, sometimes it can mean that, but yeah. So that was, by the way, that was good coverage in the New York Times.
Thank you.
So how'd you get that?
I asked really nicely. I took
1,000 times.
No, I had a good pitch. I took a public relations class in college, probably one of the more valuable classes. I didn't major in that. I just took that as one of my core classes or something, and paid off because I've gotten like a lot of press that I probably shouldn't have gotten. But it's an easy to pitch show. Hey, you write about stand-up comedy. Well, there's a sold out naked comedy show in an orgy basement in Bushwick. Interested? Oh, and it's good. It's not just you could see any of my lineups. You could see them with their clothes on, and you would still think it's a really good lineup.
So what's the future? Where are you going to take this?
Still doing our monthly shows. This won't be out in time, but like we've got one in September 16th, and then I'm sure we'll get some more dates soon after that. It could be cool to do. There's two things I've thought of. One is like teaming up with some other folks to take this elsewhere. I was actually when that guy, we call him Creepy Neil. When Creepy Neil was trying to do his show, I think part of the thing people were telling me, part of why they turned him down, but they were open to my show, was because they said, we trust you and the way you do this. And that meant a lot. So I think hopefully I can bring that elsewhere. So there's some other cities I've talked to some people in. If you are listening to this and you think it'd be dope to do this in your city, like talk to me, we can, discuss and figure it out. But I also think it could be cool. There's a guy, Louis J. Gomez. He runs something called Skankfest. It's a weekend long comedy festival for his Legion of Skanks podcast. And they do a naked roast battle, but they only do it once a year. I've asked him if I'd be stepping on toes if I did that a little bit. He said no. So I've kind of gotten the green light to pursue that. But, no firm plans right now. But, shout out to Skankfest because I've done the naked roast battle twice. I'm undefeated. No big deal. And it's very fun. They do it as a midnight show. And it's just comedians saying very mean things to each other, but like also naked.
No HBO special in the future?
I mean, I don't need to do I want to do a normal HBO special, but with my clothes on. You know what I mean? I don't want naked comedy to be my entire career, but it's nice that people want to notice me for it. I hope they'll also see me with my pants on. I think it's a little better look, but it's up to you.
Everyone needs a shtick.
Yeah. The futures, I want to keep doing it successfully here in New York City. I want to keep packing out shows every month. And if I can take it to another city or two, I think that'd be also really cool. And then like my main focus is the Man Whore podcast and what I do there and the live shows. I just celebrated my 500th episode where I went down on 5 women. And then after I left the room, they like reviewed me to the guest host.
Oh, was that painful?
You'll have to listen to the episode to find out.
Okay. All right.
We recorded it in May. We're doing this right now in August. So I only just found out what these women said like a week and a half ago when I finally sat down to edit it. I was like, oh my God, I thought I did terribly.
You have to have a pretty strong sense of self-confidence to open yourself up to that kind of criticism.
I think it's one of my few skills is I am maybe funny, but at minimum, I am shameless. So that helps.
Good. So if people want to find out more about it, you got a website?
You can go to my social media. There's a link tree in all my bios, and there's specifically a thing for getting. You can sign up for a mailing list that's just about the comedy shows. So you can sign up for that, or you can follow me on. I don't even know where we're supposed to promote these days. I'm on Instagram at Billy is Procida. That's Procida. I'm on Twitter and TikTok and Spill at the Billy Procidea. I'm also on Threads. But mainly if you find the Man Whore podcast, I have all my stuff in the bio there. If you go to any of my social media, the link tree goes to all the other things that you can find me on.
We will put links to all that stuff in the show notes, and then 2 months from now, it will all have changed because somebody's changed the name. It's not Twitter anymore; it's X. But I don't know how you use that. Like, I'm going to X message.
You know what Dr. Ruth said? Dr. Ruth tweeted, "Sir, all my tweets just X-rated now." She's in her fucking 90s. And she still got it, Dr. Ruth.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
So as you heard, Billy is one of those many people out there who have a lot of attitudes towards naturism. See, I want to stress again, there's nothing wrong with sexuality. Sometimes naturists sound like they're asexual because we're so defensive about it. But of course, naturists like sexuality too. They like sex. They are sexual creatures. It's part of being human. The question is, do the nudity and the sexuality always have to be combined? And Billy obviously realizes it's not. And I wish we didn't have to be so defensive about the sexuality aspect. He obviously doesn't care, but we do because we're always conflating the two, or people on the outside are always conflating the two. And of course, there are people who come to our environments who have the wrong idea, and they cannot separate the two. And that's what causes us problem. But it's nice to hear that some people can say like, what? Yeah, whatever. I wish everybody was like that. Everybody was that comfortable. And there's a lot of those folks who are potentially eventually becoming hardcore naturists as well once they discover that there's places where the two are always separated. And that's what we hope to do. So that will be all for this episode of the Naturist Living Show. Thank you, as always, for listening. My name is Stéphane Deschênes, and I am your host for this podcast and the owner of Bear Oaks Family Naturist Park, along with my wife, Linda. I make the show with a lot of help from Samantha Graham, who makes the task of producing this and editing and getting it all going so much easier. So thank you so much for your help, Samantha. And if you want to support her, because all the money that we raise through our Patreon goes to her work, because I don't profit from the Patreon at all. All the money goes to Samantha to keep the show going. You can support us on Patreon by going to patreon.com/Naturist Living Show. One word. And again, it's not for me. It's for Samantha and for the show and to keep it going. The Naturist Living Show's theme music is The Day We Met by Mark Hodges. And you can find links to all of the items I mentioned in the show notes on the website at naturistlivingshow.com. And please keep sending your comments and suggestions. Both Samantha and I appreciate getting them. The support is really great. All the kind words and the positive feedback is really great. And even if somebody's a criticism, we're happy to hear that too. Don't get me wrong. The show's email address is contact@naturistlivingshow.com. And you can also call to leave a comment. You can take as many tries as you want, and you can even delete the message if you don't like it. We have a new phone system, but I'm pretty sure it's working. Basically, you're calling the park, you're calling Bear Oaks, and you call 905-473-6060. That's country code 1 if you're not in North America. And then the show's extension is 333. I hope you enjoyed the show, and that you'll join us again for the next episode of the Naturist Living Show.
This episode of the Naturist Living Show was brought to you by Bear Oaks Family Naturist Park. Traditional naturist values in a modern setting. Traditional values means that naturism is more than just taking your clothes off. It is a life philosophy with physical, psychological, environmental, social, and moral benefits. Bear Oaks Family Naturist Park strives to promote those naturist values in a modern setting that provides the amenities and services that our members and visitors expect. Free your body, free your mind. Learn more at www.bearoaks.ca.
hope you enjoyed this particular episode of the Naturist Living Show. Oops, just spilled my water. Uh-oh, and now I've got to get the closing script. So let me pause for a second. I'll be right back.
Samantha, it's cut here.